My expectation from Montana, too, was we camped here. On the drive out to the road to go where we were going to go, we started seeing birds everywhere on the ground. So we were like, they're everywhere. Yeah, why leave?
We're not going to leave birds to find birds.
No, so we dumped the dogs on the ground. I'm walking with him for 3 minutes, and he goes down into this little draw, perfect point, about 20 meters, single bird kicks up, single shot, drop him, he grabs it, and I went, this is Montana, huh? This is crazy. I actually have him trained that when I clap my hand, that means place.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, where's place? I don't know out here.
So you clap to send him to place. You don't clap when he goes to place.
That's a send. It's actually how I learned about pairing and chaining. I didn't realize that I was doing it right, because when he would upset me and I'd tell him place, I'd clap my hands to get his attention. And then one time somebody came over and I clapped my hands and he went to place and I went. So I called him and I was like, hey, is that how that works? He was like, yeah, sort of, kind of. I went,
In this instance, it does.
Yeah, and that one, it was a bit appropriate.
See, the lessons you might learn just from clapping to sync up video and audio, you never know what's going to come about. I am joined by Cory and Randall Lykens, brothers. We're out here in Montana. We're kind of in the dog days of the hunting trip. It's inevitable you come out here, everybody's excited. The dogs are yanking on the chain gang, barking. They're all excited. And then fast forward a few days, it's in the heat of the day where we're taking a break, waiting for the sun to kind of dissipate a little bit. And yeah, all the dogs are dead.
Yeah, dude. They're gassed. Everyone except the two like little puppies. They're still like, what are we doing? Everybody else is wore out.
Yeah, they're wore out now.
We're trying to figure out, like, all right, who's got some life left in them, who's gonna run, and it's always that measuring act and trying to line up your best spots with the dogs that need it most. But then you're also wanting to be selfish and go shoot birds over the OGs, the dogs that you really kind of came up with. So what was it about Montana that you guys decided to come here? Because I was supposed to be going on another trip that fell through. It was supposed to be like a month from now, and when that fell through, Randall pretty much was like, all right, you're coming. I'm like, man, have you ever been to Montana the first week of September? Like, yeah, it's legal to do it, but
that doesn't mean you should.
But there's heat, there's snakes, there's all kinds of stuff. There's also some good times with it, but talk to me about the thought process. Why Montana?
Dude, we did Michigan last year, where he appeased me, and I wanted to, I wanted to kill rough grouse. I wanted to play that game and do it, because we've been on a trip up to North Georgia, a weekend trip, just trying. We flushed a couple birds, didn't connect on anything. I was like, that's it, dude. I'm going to the Great Lakes. Like, we're gonna go kill some rough grouse. So we did that last year. He got a little frustrated with all the trees and things like that. So he said, hey, I want to shoot. I want to be able to work my dog, see my dog work on the prairie, wide open shots, and just have fun. I was like, all right, well, where's the first place we're going? And then I kick off my bird dog training in September. So I was like, well, that's what we're doing. That's where we're going.
So you loaded up some client dogs and brought up here with you too. Has that worked out exactly how you thought in your head? I know a few people that do it every single year, and it sounds great. It sounds like, man, I just have more dogs to go hunt. But at the end of the day, it's still work. People are paying you to run the dogs out in Montana. So what's that like, balancing client dogs out with your own dogs and kind of tempering expectations from the clients and all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, for one of them, I don't know the dog from Adam. So, I got her 5 days early, so got enough to get a recall on her, like a reliable off-leash reinforceable recall, which she already had. The owners have done a good job with the obedience. There'll be some things to tighten up, brush up, but like, she's a pretty obedient dog. And it was really just getting to know her, like, who are you? What are you made of? We put her on some pigeons just to kind of see, and she likes to get a little close to birds, not give them too much space. So just like, who are you out here though? Not in the training field, like, who are you? And the first couple times she hunted pretty close, but yesterday I took her and chased 4 coveys of huns with her, and she was out there 160 yards, hunting, pointing, holding point, like very, very staunch points. So I was happy to see that, man. It was cool to see her progression. The other dog, I mean, you know him. In the training field, he's great. Does all the things, does them the way you want him to do them, and then had a feeling, just based on knowing this dog's history, that he would be a bit of a butthead out here. And he was the first couple of days, and he's like, well, if I don't point, they're just going to fly away. And now, you know, I had a really good walk with him today. Saw everything starting, generalizing all that training into the wild bird game, because it's different. Like, you know, it's not the same. So it was cool to see him do all that. But it's like my first time doing it, bringing client dogs up like this. Definitely more work than I envisioned. You're not just going hunting. Like, you can't just, you know, we can do that with our personal dogs, but the other dogs, like, there are objectives to do. And so it definitely adds to the workload, but still fun. I mean, can't complain, dude. I'm running bird dogs in Montana, getting paid for it, so I can't complain.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, steep learning curve when you're dealing with client dogs. I mean, it's like you said, I mean, it's one thing if we're sitting here for 5-6 hours while it's hot and we're like, all right, well, we just have our own dogs to run tonight, but then we're waiting here for 5 or 6 hours. Then you got to decide, like, all right, do I run my own dog or the client dogs? And for those that are listening, they say, well, drop both of them. That's not how this works. Not if you're actually trying to progress in certain facets. And that brings us back to wild birds are not the same as the training field. And I know a lot of people want to pretend like it is, but it just simply isn't. You can have the best dog brought up on pigeons, pen-raised birds, field trials, you name it. If they come out here on wild birds, it may take them a while. I'm not saying that they can't. They clearly and obviously can, but there's a steep learning curve to where you might have that just champion in the training field. They know the game there. Then they come out here and they're like, "What do you want me to do out here?" What's the main thing that's different about it to the dogs? Like, aside from just human scent, but boot scent, hand scent, the same stuff we always talk about. Like, why do you think there's that drastic of a change for them?
Dude, it's context. It's all context. In the training field, our equipment's different usually, right? You're running a training belt, probably carrying a starter pistol or a single shot shotgun. Probably don't have the tracking collar on it, you know, with the long antenna. You know, there's all these little things, and if we think back to some previous people you've talked to, everything is everything, right? Shout out to Jared. But, you know, all those little contexts in our body language and our mannerisms and our attitude tell them stuff. They're studying us left and right, and they're like, oh, this is different. And then you walk out here, it looks nothing like your training field, and they go, oh, well, no rules. So you gotta teach them that, hey, these are the rules still apply. And this, not all dogs are that way, but, you know, there's a healthy amount out there that are, and they just have to realize the rules apply here too. So that's the difference, I think, with me running client dogs versus personal dogs. Is like, I'm a hunter too. Like, I'm in Montana, I want to shoot birds. Like, I want to shoot birds and have a good time, but picking the right dog for the right cover who I think is going to learn something versus grabbing the dog that I know would do very well. So like yesterday, you know, I hunted some tree lines, some brushy tree lines, and I could have grabbed one of the others and went and stacked up some hunts. But that's not what, they don't need that. But that, you know, little short hair over there, she needed it. She needed good, solid wind direction with, you know, brush fencing and things like that. And I knew that if there were birds in there, it would be set up very close to replicate the training environment and help her start piecing that together. She did. The progression in that walk alone for her was great. And then I had my puppy with me, who's just out there to be out there.
Just to be a puppy.
Hear gunfire, see birds. You know, he got a little retrieve in, you know, just little puppy stuff. So.
Well, what did that progression look like? Because I think this is important. We've all been in the shoes training our own dogs where we come up. And it's just like everybody has these grandiose images and dreams and visions of what their dog's going to do. Like, you know, they spend all summer long in the training field with launchers, pigeons, like sweating in the humidity, whatever. And then they come out here and they just expect the dog to go stretch the horizon, go naturally work, a transition or a drop in elevation and hit the birds on the slope. And then more often than not, if it's a dog's first one, especially if you're talking about a young dog, like, year 1, year 2, and you go drop them on the prairie, very often they just look at you like, what do you want?
Hey man, someone didn't mow this grass.
Yeah. Where are the lanes out here?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. When you go training, right? The dog probably saw the bird box full of birds. They see the bird bag. They probably watched you walk into the field. I'm not saying everybody does this, but I've been to a lot of training environments and seen it, right? Just the general theme. They probably saw you do all these things. They probably saw you at least enter the field with launchers. And that's good because you're building hunt drive, right? They know it's out there. I got to find it.
It's building anticipation, like,
right,
I get to go find it.
Yeah,
Here
so we're literally building hunt drive, especially if you stretch them out and start making them work harder for it. But out here, they didn't see any of those contextual clues that say what we're doing. So you drop them out, and they're like, cool, you got the stick that makes the noise, and you're wearing that thing with the bag that's got my water in it. Now what? Like, now what do you want me to do? So you just got to link it all together, man. They figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think that's why routine is so important. I tell everybody, aside from just the gear that you wear, at the end of the day, I'm no longer. A few years ago, I used to be a little more disciplined in this, to where I would wear what I actually wore hunting out there, and then after a couple years, I'm like, this is Middle Tennessee in July. Like, this is
it is hot.
No, I'm getting a training belt. I'm not wearing even brush pants anymore. Like, I'm in shorts and Crocs half the time now.
But that's a good point though, because he brought it up today about generalizing some things with his dog. And I got to thinking about it, and you and I have this. I've seen you do it, and I think you've seen me do it sometimes, is we have rituals when we start, right? Like, you whoa your dogs, you step in front of them.
And that's where I was headed with this, yeah.
Yep. You gain their attention, and then you release them, right? Like, I heel my dogs, I whoa them, then I release them, and then I'm going to ask for a whoa or a couple obedience things, and then we actually start hunting.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say, like, anything that you can help, like, you don't have to go overboard like I did years ago. I'm sure it helped in some way, shape, or form, but at the end of the day, I felt like I was stealing myself of enjoyment a lot of the time to do this, and I'm like, you know what, after enough experience and seeing enough dogs piece this together, it's not rocket science, and it's just adding in certain little layers that you can cross over to the dog. So what you're talking about is, in the training field, every time I start, my dogs are at heel, I whoa them, I walk in front of them, make sure I literally talk to them. Do you have your head on straight? Like, we're going to go do this. You can go find my bird. Like, just a little stupid little coach pep talk, that means nothing to the dogs, but it's just a moment between us. And then, okay. Like, he's got a shotgun. He's got the stick that goes boom. He's got, all this stuff. And then here's the ritual. And I've just found that, like, by doing that every single time when you expect them to actually go hunt and search, I'm not going to say that you have to do that every time to go do a play session in the driveway, but anytime that birds are involved, that you're going to require or ask them to go independently search and seek out game, that's what I do.
Yeah, I just do some basic obedience stuff with him when we first start. We get out of the truck, and I'll heel him up, let him go out, whoa him, I'll off him, just very basic stuff, just like we were talking about earlier, to show that we're out here to do something, and you're going to have a lot of freedom, but the rules still apply. You are still going to listen while you're out here, right? That's stereotypically the stuff that we do, but I actually do still wear everything out to the field in Georgia. It's real hot.
Yeah. Let's get into some of the fun stuff. Cory, you said that you wanted to get out of the woods. You wanted to come out in the open, see the dog work, have some fun, shoot the birds. Mm-hmm. Is this what you hoped it was going to be?
Yes. It is. It's different than I expected, but it is everything that I still wanted at the same time, right? I was expecting, I don't know, maybe from watching videos and stuff. I've never been out west before. This is my first time. I guess from videos and expectations that there would just be birds galore everywhere, right? Every time you came over a knoll, you'd see like 20 birds get up. Your dog
you got to remember, every time that GoPro turns on that video, that there's a reason why there's birds at play, right?
Yeah,
You don't see
yeah.
all of the miles and time in between those birds in those videos.
Yeah, nobody talks about that, do they? I mean, we're averaging, what, 12, 13 miles a day?
Something like that.
Something like that. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of learning for me and a lot of learning for Cope. It's been interesting because where I hunt, you don't really have to worry about using terrain because there isn't really so much of it, right? Now, you do use brush at times, but here I've learned a couple of times, let him get way out in front of me, let him go over these knolls and into these draws, let him figure all that out. And then how can I kind of try to hide myself a little bit as I come up to the birds, especially if they've been spooked before, right? So that they can't see me, and hopefully he's still right there. And as I come over the top, I should expect that they're probably going to get up. I mean, that hasn't been the experience every time, but it has helped me out with my first 2 hunts. Yeah, I doubled them. I came over the knoll in the way that they couldn't see me, and they were right in front of me. It was great.
And that's the epic struggle that I have because I need to see the client dogs. So if they do make a mistake, I can make a correction. So I'm like skylining myself already.
Yeah, I mean, we were with a new dog who really was just like figuring out what we were doing out there. So just to get him even hyped up on the birds and show him, hey, they're out here. This is what we're after. It was fine to do that kind of thing in that moment. I mean, to me anyways.
Tribe building, man. Tribe building. That's why the puppy doesn't. There's no rules for the puppy. I just shoot it.
Yeah.
Right.
There's 0 rules for that puppy.
Yeah, I mean,
as long as you're out here having a good time and you're getting birds in your mouth, that's all I care about. Don't be afraid of the gun and love birds. Other than that, I'll train the rest of it later.
Yeah, that's all you got to ask for a young pup. I think a lot of people, they come out in their dog's first year, and I get it. I've been there. We've all been there. We want to see the dog just point, slam, and hold steady and all the pretty stuff. But you realize real quick that you don't get that dog that is going to go out and actually find the birds that you're not going to just kick up yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. We were talking about this earlier. When I look at the dogs, like, are the dogs producing and finding birds that I wouldn't have just kicked up myself by walking around, right? And so when you're coming out here in the prairie and you have that dog that's 20, 30 yards away, that might be good for retrieving if you kick them up, but it's not going over the ridge, it's not going in the next draw, it's not going down the coulee to find the birds that you're not going to naturally walk up yourself. And so many people end up with a dog like that by accident. They don't mean to, because they're asking too much from the dog in the first season out here. They don't do enough drive building, and they fully expect the connection from training field to wild bird field to just be there, and it's not. You really have to lay in all that stuff. And now I have seen it come together for young dogs to where some dogs drive building takes a day. With the right field, the right birds, the right, intentional corrections, contacts, whatever, you have the dog that fully opens up after one day, and you are into progressing and maybe getting to that dog that really holds steady for you. But then I've seen some dogs that not only takes the full week, takes a couple trips before that light bulb goes off, and you're just kind of at the mercy of the dog. And let's call a spade a spade. Not all hunters are the luckiest hunters. Not all dogs are the luckiest. Like, sometimes we do our best to put the dogs in the right situations, and you just go out there and it's just a dry field. There's just nothing there. And then you just burn the dog, 8 to 15 miles on some of these walks and got nothing out of it. And that's the hard piece for me. It's like, man, I did everything I could for you, and the birds just weren't there. And that is non-existent in the training field. If you go plant the birds, like, they're going to be there. And that's a big learning curve for a lot of people coming out, I think, is just managing expectations and timelines.
That's a story of my puppy over there. Like, the first couple walks, he's a puppy, so I'm not going to take him too far, but you look at the cover and you look at the maps and you're like, oh, dude, we shot some birds over there this morning. Okay, the same sort of thing. We'll find some birds for the puppy. And, if you don't, with little puppies, figure something out quick with them, they're just like, okay, we're on a walk, whatever.
Yeah, it's a fun run.
And then that, yesterday when they got bird contact, and the next thing I know, 5-month-old puppy is at 165 and still going. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, look at this. And so he opened up and he started looking for birds and tracking, he's doing all the things. So it just takes time, man. But I'm like you, I tried and tried. It just didn't pan out. And then that one walk, and now he's out there doing the thing. So.
And that's what keeps me going. We don't know what that one walk is going to be. You don't know what that one rep is going to be, because I've had a couple to where, I was trying to translate the training scenarios for Quinn in retrieving more so than even the field work, because she's kind of got that. And then you were out there with me, the Huns. Huns come up. I shoot a double. Creek, who was backing, got the reward for backing. He got one. And then Quinn, go figure, the e-collar just craps out on me, just completely shuts off the tracking collar. And I don't have an e-collar to send her. So, like, the training rep that I was able to, it was, you couldn't have set it up any more perfect than that. And the collar just craps out on you. And it's like, well, there's that learning opportunity lost, right? And it's just, there's no way around it. And that's going to happen. It's, you do everything you can. It even unfolds how you're hoping. And for reasons outside of your control, it just falls through.
Yeah. That was a cool sequence. That was fun, because I had just gotten into covey hunts.
Yeah.
Right. And I'd seen some, and you met me, and
I think you flew the covey, and then we linked up, and you're like, hey, they're up ahead. I'm letting Creek, dark poodle pointer, cool off, get out of the sun a little bit. And when he caught his breath, we went out there, and the collar was acting up. We didn't know where Quinn went to, and then all of a sudden I look up over into the wheat stubble field, and there she is on point.
We've flown the covey. Creek cools off. You meet me, and Quinn goes out there and sticks a nasty point right in the middle of that wheat stubble, and I saw my opportunity, because I'm looking for backs. I was like, oh, here we go. And he'll do it in the training field. He's not the biggest fan of it, so woed him into a back. But man, he stood steady all the way through fall and release. Exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So that's what. Dude, you've had some bad luck this trip. I got what I wanted out of that you didn't, and then the bad luck just kept rolling.
I was going to try and avoid the bad luck theme throughout the week, just because I didn't want to be bitching on the podcast the whole time. But it's funny how, like, some trips you go on, it's just like you couldn't imagine a better trip, right? Mm. Then you have some that are just like, it makes you question why you do any of it. This one is like a perfect mixture of both. Like, the good moments have been great, but then, like, every single day there's just been little stupid things that happen that.
See, that was me in Michigan.
Oh, okay. All right. See, now,
yeah, that's how Michigan
So
was.
It wasn't just the rough grouse game. It wasn't just in the woods that appealed to you. You had some extenuating circumstances that added to the experiences for you?
It was the hunting in general, just the woods and stuff like that. I don't want to be shooting birds in the woods. And then he's never hunted like that before, so we were struggling together a bit, and it was a little harder to control him and whatnot, not being able to see him. And a lot of times he'll hunt really close if he can't see me. He's a very sight dog with me. Mm-hmm. And I also don't like the cold. So it rained every day. I was just having a bad time. Oh my God, man. Soaking wet.
The back half of that trip was pretty wet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of it, right? Like, you have to take the good with the bad, because that right there, it's going to make you appreciate this a little bit more. And I know it sounds corny. Somebody listening to this like, yeah, take the good with the bad. Yeah. All right. But it really is, it's there's been a lot of dumb on this trip for me. Like, there's just been a lot of stupid. From truck tires to batteries to tracking collars still just freaking acting up. And like I was telling you guys last night, like, nothing major, nothing really all that life-changing, like altering, but just annoying stuff. Like the tire. Okay, let's change that. Well, that turned into a fiasco all in of itself.
Yeah.
Changing that in the middle of the dry prairie that the ground just did not want to support the jacks. But you know what?
We made it work.
4 grown men. We finally made it work. All right.
That got sketchy fast. That got sketchy real fast.
Yeah.
Enough muscle makes anything work.
Oh, man.
Right, yeah, but you know what? Hey, no harm done to the truck, and nobody got injured. But this was after the hit and run. The day before getting up here in North Dakota, I stopped off at that trial. Somebody hit and run, and yeah, man, Lucy last night, freaking good old Leroy Jenkins. She finally popped that porcupine cherry, and then went after 3 more porcupines.
Yeah. Did she treat the one, or did Rachel pointed it? Did Lucy treat it?
But you notice the collar worked on that one, so I was able to take advantage of the training opportunity that Lucy gave me on the porcupine.
It didn't work. She went and found another one.
So, worth it.
Yeah,
German dogs, man. German dogs.
Yeah, but it's so much of that stuff, but it's still when the good stuff happens, when Quinn does stick that point, and then oh my God, it was yesterday too. We had a learning curve. I had to stop a hunt, turn it into a training session on Quinn. Got through that. She rebounded. We went hunting, and she stuck it and did everything perfect. And I'm like, yes! And it's all on video. It's all on GoPro. And then there's no sound on the GoPro.
Yeah, I forgot about
and
that.
I'm like, this is what the stupid stuff that like you can't make this up. Like every other GoPro video has the sound, and so like I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, yes, this is a great win. And then, but I got the video. I just dub some music on it or something.
Well,
Yeah,
then you add
it's
on
still
top
cool
of
memory.
that, this week I've nearly stepped on one rattlesnake and then did step on another. Like, it's just been those, like you said, those little blips where everyone's like, is this going to crash the party? And you're like, I don't know. But I don't know. That rattlesnake scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, you jumped about 20 feet in the air.
I haven't shot jumping in the air in a long time. Man, I thought he bit me. Like, I felt something smack my boot, and retrospectively, it had to have been his tail, right?
Yep.
Hit my boot. I thought I just got tagged. And I'm like 3 feet in the air, jumping, literally shooting like I used to at work.
You just
trying
pulled
to kill
that
them.
Halo Master Chief.
Yeah,
Just
straight the double bounce and like, yeah, no, man. God, that like literally had to sit down and catch my breath. I haven't been that scared in a little while. That scared the crap out of me.
Yep. No,
I come back and you guys are like, I'm not hunting with you.
No, it's the snakes are out. I ran one over on the road today on accident. I don't even I like snakes. Cory, you thought I was crazy for saying this earlier because I like snakes. They're just part of the environment for me. And it's like I look at it like we're the ones that came up here at the start of September, right?
Oh, dude.
But yeah, they're definitely out and about.
Yeah, especially wet. I mean, we were a few miles west of here.
Yeah.
Gee, they were bad.
Yeah. What have your guys' impressions and thoughts been on the habitat and what we've been hunting and the different types of land? I don't want to give any specific locations away to people, but start breaking down just what it's looked like to you guys, expectation wise, preference wise. There's a lot that we've talked about over the past few days that I think listeners might appreciate kind of hearing about.
Man, everything is, and we talked to a couple of locals just in passing, but like everything's grazed down pretty bad. So finding the pockets with good grass, and then you hope there's good cover with the grass. So that's been tough. Focusing on ag has been, that's not what, at least I think I speak for all three of us. That's not what we want to do, is just walk field edges, right? Like we like the wild, like where we're at now. But that's where they're at. That's what we've kind of had to transition to find birds. This spot is a little gem that we just lucked into. I mean, just drove here one day and we're like, it's the only place we can camp, so let's camp. And now
it's opening day, and you're excited. So
yeah, so we've hunted this place twice. I mean, I moved 10 coveys this morning, and he moved 6 or so. But you look at the prairie grass, and it's taller. It's not grazed down. There's plenty of sage and things like that. But man, we've been to some of the other BMAs and BLM land, and it's just grazed pretty bad.
Even stuff that looks good from the road, like you're looking at it on the map, you're like, this looks good. You drive up on it, and from the truck, I forgot my binoculars at home, but I got a little monocular in the truck, and I'm pulling that out and looking at it like a good old pirate, like sitting on a pirate ship. And I'm looking at some of it, it looks good, and then you go like, you go walk 100 yards in, and you're just looking around, and it's just barren. And to what you said, it's part of it. It's BLM land. The ranchers and everybody, they have to make a living. I don't fault them for anything. I mean, if I own a bunch of cows and there's a drought in the area and the government's like, hey, you can come graze this land, I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm not going to care, if it comes between putting food on my table and letting some, Joe Schmo upland hunter from Tennessee come up here and shoot birds. So you know exactly what I'm doing. So I get it. But to your point, like the ag thing, this is a preference of mine. Like I just don't like hunting ag. I just don't. When I drive out to Montana, I want to get lost in the fact that like I'm in the wild, and I don't want to be reminded the entire time I'm hunting of human involvement and man altering the landscape. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Again, like it's just part of it. But when I come out here and I want to hunt prairie birds, I want to be on the prairie. But you got to go find where birds are at. So we did the shuffle for a couple days. We kept trying to find the big, expansive walks, and we found birds sporadically. But instead of groups of 5 to 10 to even 20, we're finding like 1, 2. Like they were really sporadic singles almost, and it's just not what you come out here to do for client dogs and your own dogs. So you know what? It's like, all right, well, we can either keep trying to force this square peg into a round hole, or we can go where the birds are and start hunting the draws and the coulees around ag. And at least then you're down in there. You're not looking at the ag. But then, hey, you're gonna get yourself around a bunch of ag and some shrub lines and stuff. Porcupines come with that.
Yeah. Saw that yesterday.
Well, I mean, I got, a little bit of my hand forced, right? Because I've got client dogs here who need to get on birds. So, like, I have to go. Now, if I'm going to run my personal dog, like, I'm like you, let's come out here and get lost. And I'll have to go make a big walk through some wild country. But if I need the bird contacts, man, that's where I got to go. So that's what I do.
I just get tired of the in the truck, out of the truck, moving spots, driving down the road. I just want to park, and I can go hunt that direction now, and then swap dogs and go hunt that direction behind me. And that, to me, that's what I like to do.
I will say it's been cool having a different campsite pretty much.
That's where I was headed to next with that.
Yeah, the like Mad Max train that we have between us, right? Like that's been cool. We've seen a healthy portion of this side of the state, but it's like we just keep coming back to the Badlandsy type stuff, like right on the edge of it.
Break down your setup, because we have a full mobile camping setup this year. This is something that when I first got into this game, I went and I was truck camping. I had a topper, I had a little cot back there, sleeping bag. I mean, I was still I didn't have any fancy gear whatsoever. Like it was very bare bones budget style. And then I kind of graduated. I started making friends, connections. I was sleeping on people's couches, getting invited to cabins and stuff like that. And then last year, I kind of missed the mobile availability or option. And so I got the camper, and that worked fine. But I still found there was something lacking. Always having that base camp. I had to go back to the campground. Instead of just wherever my feet are, that's where I'm staying. So this year I kind of redid my setup, and it's worked out well to where we've just different public lands offered different options as far as camping. BLM is free to camp. Different states, state lands, county lands, stuff like that. It's unique to every state. But this is something that you've been working on your own rig for the past year or so, since we've kind of gotten to know each other. Why don't you describe your setup, then I can describe my setup and just what we like about it, also dislike about it.
Well, there's advantages and disadvantages to mine, right? Like the advantage is when it's cold, I can get in here and get out of the wind and be very warm and relax. If it's raining, I can get in here and get out of the wind. The disadvantage is that I either have to unhook or I'm towing. So that limits my options as far as like access backing up and turning this thing around. But it's just I think it's a 10-foot square drop trailer from, I can't remember, Tiny Camper makes it. That's who makes it. But the thing's like fully off-road capable, like axle suspension with the timbering axles and lock and roll hitch. And so we've added a bunch of solar and water tanks and put a sink in, and there's a port for a diesel heater so we can stay warm in the winter, and there's lights all over it and storage for ammo, food, recovery equipment, you name it, dog supplies. So I enjoy it. I like it. It's super off-road capable, and it tows nice on the highway. It's like you hardly notice it's back there. But like I said, the disadvantage is that you're towing everywhere you go with what we're kind of doing, where it's like hit a spot, camp, make a walk, hit a spot. So you are hooking up and unhooking a lot. Where with your rig you're even more mobile. But I'm sure that comes with its own set of disadvantages as you go through and figure them out. There's some things I need to do, like recognize we need some more cabinets, right? We need to put in some more storage in the back.
A little more retention.
Yeah, probably need to add a little more solar. Probably extend the battery bank a little bit more would be a good idea. Things like that. But I mean, we can come out here and stay for 2-3 days and then head to town, fill up on water, and come back out. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got this thing a year ago. I bought it. He's helped me rig it out and, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that. And I've done all the manual labor. And we just kind of pieced it together, and now we're just take it everywhere we go hunting now. I took it to Michigan, and it did fantastic. Did great in Michigan. Perfectly warm, even in the 20-degree nights, man. That diesel heater would run us out of there. Oh, yeah. Like you had to crank it all the way down, or we were like sweating, dying in there. So it's a cool setup. Shower, 270 awning and everything, so you can keep the dogs out of the sun. Like that's probably what I learned is I need to add another awning to my truck to get even more shade for the dogs while they're on the chain gang. But yeah, other than that, I can't think of anything I didn't cover or that I don't like about it.
Visibility. People know where you are when you have something like this, or you have to take it with you.
Yeah, right? That's fair. It when you're driving through town or driving down the highway, people notice it. And it doesn't help that I have my logo on the back of it.
I was about to say, you got advertisement on the back and stickers.
Yeah. So, it does grab people's attention. It's got some bright color things hanging off of it, and everyone stops and asks what it is and where we're going and all that kind of stuff. But that's in particular why we picked this campsite that first night, because you can drive right by and you never know we're here.
Yeah.
You never know we're here.
I mean, we're, I don't know, half a mile from the nearest road, and yeah, it's cool. I've really enjoyed just setting up camp wherever we are, but just being out in the middle of nowhere, like when there's no sound. I mean, the stars and everything in the sky, like not to get too like overly romantic about that. It makes you feel like, all right, we're in Montana now. All right. Like this is what it's about.
I feel like a very, very spoiled pioneer right now.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Well, yeah, I mean, my setup, I did the camper thing last year, and it worked fine. I took it. I did Colorado, went through Utah, Idaho last year, and then the Northwoods Loop. So all 3 states there, and it did fine. It did great. But I did find just the hauling of it around. Do you have connections today? Not tomorrow. Different stuff like that. I didn't have a solar thing set up for it. So like if you didn't have it plugged into your truck, or you didn't have a campground with connections, you're losing power pretty fast. So like even the benefit of having a fridge and freezer in there, it's kind of like you're still dependent on where you're at. And so I wanted more of a just self-contained something. And so, but part of me, I'm like, yeah, but I already have it. It's already in the driveway. Like it's already ready to go. If I want to add solar, I can do that. But then I started looking at the price of what it was to haul it around, upkeep. Campers crap's always failing on it. You're always replacing something. So I start doing the math, and I did the math on the trip last year, and with gas, I mean, so my truck averages like 19 miles an hour, miles per the gallon, and with the camper, it shot it down to like 13, 14, somewhere in there, depending on the terrain that I was hauling it in. And you start adding in the mileage, and man, when I compared it to if I just got like an Airbnb or a hotel room, like moderately priced, it's pretty much dead nuts even. Like it was just a wash, and I'm like, why am I hauling this around when financially, like I could still set myself up with, a home base somewhere at a cabin or something. So anyway, long story short, sold the camper, moved into this, started figuring it out. I mean, this is just in the past like month and a half, 2 months that I decided to like last second go figure, do all this. And so sold the camper, got a bed rack to go over the B Pro kennels so I could throw a rooftop tent up there. That was the main thing to start with. Where am I going to lay my head at night? Added on a road shower, which has been kind of nice. It's pressurized water, like that's been nice. And then the 270 awning, which it's out right now. It gives the dog shade and everything. It's worked out really nice. The solar we couldn't get to work because the solar panel that went on the rooftop tent isn't compatible with the battery station that I had and whatnot. But here I am. I'm making do just fine without it. Would definitely be nice, and that's something that I'm gonna finish that out. But really, aside from power, I'd say water's really the most limiting thing, and it may be more just so on this trip because it is early season. But when you factor in not only just the water that we camp with and cook with and even wash off with and stuff like that, but the hunting, the dogs, ourselves, it's one of those like while the road shower carries 8 gallons and I have two 6-gallon containers, that's 20 gallons of water. I've been having to refill every 2 days or so. It goes by quick.
Well, you're filling up you're not empty though. You could go another day.
I could stretch it if I had to, but when it's just like, well, let's run into town. Let's just do it.
You got to think every time we're loading up our vests, we're carrying a gallon between 4 water bottles. So you do 2 walks a day with 3 people. You do the math there.
Yeah.
Because we're carrying 26 gallons, and it gets us, day 3, you need to start figuring out where you're going for water. I'd say water, power, fuel are the 3 things that are always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Because we burn a bit more power nightly than you. You have the big expenses like when you do something like this, but daily running the refrigerator and then everything else is 12 volts. So
yeah,
we have to make sure every day we get plenty of stability where the solar can do its job.
Yeah, because I haven't really, aside from charging collars and, doing the occasional podcast with all this equipment, I'm not really drawing much power. But I would like to get to where I do have a portable fridge or freezer so that, it's been nice coming back to camp and we just cook the birds that we shoot in the day. We've been having some great meals at night. And so I've enjoyed that aspect of it. But I would like to take it home, and I hate doing the cooler ice dance. I've done it enough times. It's such a pain, and having to. It's like right now, I got ice yesterday morning and it's completely gone in the small cooler that I have, and it's just I don't want to. It's one thing to have to go into town to get water.
Yeah.
It's another thing to go into town to buy a bag of ice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why does frozen water feel worse to buy? Yeah, I don't know. That and like he said, this is our first time out here. We didn't realize that on this side of the state, man, towns are 80 miles apart. Like,
yeah,
you're driving an hour, and then plus you got to get out of the Badlands and back onto a road and then the hour to town.
Yeah.
So like we didn't realize that. But it's worked out. I haven't had any issues so far.
The only other thing that I could think of, and I have no idea what I could do, at least with my setup, is the dust, the dirt from the driving. You guys have seen me. I've been cleaning out the dogs' boxes. Like I feel horrible for them just breathing in that junk every time we drive somewhere. But that's the only thing. I have no idea what I could do for the dog box. But that's my main concern. Everything else can get dust on it. I'll clean that off, hose it off, whatever. But it's just the dust getting in the dog box. That's what bugs me.
Gonna have to talk to Ben about some sort of positive air pressure.
That's what I was thinking too, is just figure out how to get positive airflow in there. But that it still has to be confined. Like, I don't know. There's got to be something I can think of.
Gonna be some way, man. Yeah. I mean, I figured out how to get AC piped into the bed of my truck. So, the dogs have been enjoying the nice, it's 80, 90 degrees while we're driving, and they're in there and it's like 65 or 70, and they're all like shivering cold.
Talk about how you literally rigged up the entire back of your truck with an AC system for your dogs, and that's how you get around in southern Georgia all year.
Oh, dude. And it pays dividends, especially how hot it is down there, running client dogs back and forth to training sites. I'm talking just like obedience dogs. So like, Meemaw's fat shepherd that she brought that cannot get hot or he's going to have problems. But it's a EcoFlow Wave 2 hooked up to 400 watts of flexible solar panels on the roof. And I just built a bulkhead out of plexiglass and some steel strap, cut the hole to fit their vent system. The key is having the AC unit inside the cab, right? Because it's only going to cool the ambient air temperature by 20 degrees. And the harder it has to work, the more power it draws. So I deleted my back seats and put in just a flat deck in there that I built. So I keep the AC unit in front where I can crank my truck's AC. So it's 60 degrees in my cab and it's cooling it down below that. So generally I'm shooting 39 to 36 degree air in the back of the truck. And then through that bulkhead, through the vent system goes in there. I've got a bed rug in the back to help insulate some, it's got to have some small R factor of some sort. And on top of that's a decked bed slide and 4 rough ones strapped down. So, that's how we keep it cold back there. And they're plenty fine and happy. I got to monitor my app and make sure I'm not overdrawing power. But the cool part is once I do get it cold back there, I can turn the AC off and just put it on fan mode. So I'm not drawing, a couple watts. And the solar will recharge while it's doing that. So now the bed's cool. I'm just drawing the cold air out of the cab and shooting it in the back. And I think on the drive up here at night, one time I looked and it was like 62 degrees in the bed of the truck. It was freezing cold back there. So
they're living the high life back there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, just rough ones with some Primo pads in there so they're comfortable for the 30-hour drive. And start off with water buckets in each kennel. And, that's probably not going to be a lasting thing because it just gets messy. And yeah, we'll probably just stop and water the dogs.
That's my thing with the water. Like, my dogs don't have access to water 24/7 when they're at home in their kennels. Them driving down the road,
What difference is it?
Yeah, every few times we stop, like, all right, here's some water, and then Rachel, especially most of the time, she's like, I don't care about that. Lucy will be like, I'll take a little bit of it, and Quinn will just be like, I'll take all of it.
Yeah, Creek is usually like, I will drink 5 gallons, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a poodle pointer thing. They're going to drink all the water they can get their little mouths on.
All of it.
They chug it.
But yeah, man, it's a neat rig. It's a neat system. Like, I'm loving it. I got a little Baby Max diesel Colorado, and that thing's got all the torque. So
yeah,
I can't complain. Like, I don't feel undergunned out here at all. I don't see anything that I don't think I can make it through just looking around, based off the previous driving courses I've been to. So,
well, anybody listening to this that wants to put eyes on it, check out the YouTube channel. It'll be on this episode on the video podcast. If you're only listening to the audio one, go hit subscribe on YouTube. Check it out. A lot of these recent episodes have been really popular on YouTube, some of the training stuff and everything. But check out the rigs. Well, I'll have some stuff kind of overlaid on this episode in terms of the rig if they're curious about it. But yeah, it's been nice just getting back to just mobile camping, just go where you want, set up shop. I've really enjoyed that a lot more than what I actually thought. Like, first I'm like, it's just practical. Now it's just like, no, I feel like it legitimately added something back into the equation that I didn't even realize was missing. It feels like, I don't know, when I first started, that just like, all right, man, we're doing it. We're out here. We're all right.
Feels wild again, right?
Yeah.
I'm not out here just to kill birds and train dogs. Like, I'm out here for the experience.
Right,
You know,
yes.
this is real Montana to me. Like, the first time I've ever been here, so like caveat to that. But like, this is not. You're not staying in a hotel in town. Like, you're just out here doing the damn thing. So.
Yeah. Before we get off here, we can't talk about a hunting trip and talking about the setup and all that stuff without telling some of the stories. So we need to pick out. I want everybody's favorite experience so far in the field, and then I want everybody's least favorite experience in the field. And I haven't thought about it. I literally just asked that, so I'm going to be sitting here right now trying to think of mine as well. But
We'll start with you then.
That's easy, actually. So my least favorite, we'll start with that, was probably yesterday, actually. I had my dog put away for a couple of days, helping a friend get his newer dog in the game, getting some drive, showing him what we're doing here. And he was only going to be here for a few days. So I had my dog resting the whole time. Well, he got a little bit sick in the meantime as well. Well, finally get him out yesterday to go hunting. And he doesn't want to do it, really. He doesn't feel good. He isn't ranging at all. He's not picking up on odor. He's not really doing a whole lot. So we did end up getting into some birds, which is good and all, but it was disappointing to not have that experience together when you have the expectation for it, right? So we put him up, and you guys went hunting, and I kept the dogs out for the rest of the day, let them kind of relax, and gave him a bunch of water, and he did much better today. So he just needed a little bit of time. That was definitely my least favorite experience of this so far. But my favorite was when you took us up to find sage grouse. Yeah, that was a good one. So me and him hunted all morning. We had covered 7 miles. Nothing. Not a point, not a flush of any type of bird whatsoever. I saw a really nice mule deer and found a pretty cool shed. So
not nothing.
This sounds like sage grouse hunting from what I've heard.
Bird-wise, you know what I mean? That's what I'm in it for. So I think we're just going to walk another mile, just do a short little loop, then we're going to walk back to the truck. Well, we walked that mile out, or half mile, whatever it was, and we're making our loop back, and I look at this one last draw. I can see the truck. I mean, it's probably 3/4 of a mile away from us at this point, and it was real thick stuff, and I said, why not? So walked up there, and he keyed up. You could tell a very obvious change in behavior. He got excited, but he was kind of staying local to that area at first. And I looked down at my feet. I was near him, and I saw feathers that had been plucked. I went, oh, that's interesting, because they were real clean, too. They weren't old or sun-worn or anything. And then he started doing his circles, expanding out this area, looking for the track. And I just stood right there, watched him, didn't say a word to him, let him do his thing. He knows what to do. He found that track, and it was obvious. He had his nose shoved to the ground, his butt in the air, and he started running up this hill. And I'm trying to, whoa him a little bit, slow him down, but I don't want to get hard on him because I want him, he's doing the right thing.
Right.
So I want to let him. And he gets to about the top of the hill, and he's probably 50 meters from me now at this point, and he slowed down a little bit, and then he came to a full stop, and he's at the peak. And just for a split second, he had that perfect point, and I watched about 8 sage grouse pick up off the top of this hill and spread out everywhere. Now, while this happened, it was funny. I guess I've trained myself in ways from dove hunting and stuff. You see birds coming to you, you take a knee, and hopefully they don't see you, you hold still. Well, I did that because I knew that I couldn't hit one of them, especially with him right there, don't want to risk the dog. I was like, I don't know, maybe it'll work. I took a knee. One came right to me, and it was a single shot, knocked him down, and he went and grabbed him for me, and we had this
party.
It's this great little moment together. I think at that point we'd covered 8 miles looking for these birds. I was pretty much like, well, that was my chance. I'll come back some other time. We'll get it figured out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But 3/4 of a mile away from the truck, we had it all come together, and
I think I heard
awesome.
You hooting and hollering from 8 miles away.
Yeah, you probably did.
Yep.
Yeah, learned our lesson the first day to not do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because birds just go everywhere.
Day one, he shoots some birds actually just right over this hill. And He goes, woo, and then and there they go. I was like, shh, be quiet, dude.
So that, not to talk longer, but that actually set my expectation from Montana too. Was we camped here on the drive out to the road to go where we were going to go. We started seeing birds everywhere on the ground. So we were like,
they're everywhere.
Yeah,
why leave?
We're not going to leave birds to find birds.
No. So we dumped the dogs on the ground. I'm walking with him for 3 minutes, and he goes down into this little draw, perfect point, about 20 meters. Single bird kicks up, single shot, drop him. He grabs it, and I went, this is Montana, huh? This is crazy.
And then you go on a 5-mile walk with nothing.
Yeah.
So it's still
It's part of it.
I mean,
I don't know.
Coming from Georgia, though, that's nothing.
Still better.
That sage grouse morning was it was neat for me to watch because a few years ago when I came up here, I mean, it was talked about earlier, those trips that like you couldn't dream of it being any better. And I mean, it was just lights out all week with sharps and huns, but we couldn't close a deal on sage. And anybody that listened to the podcast, then they know that the last day it was just like serendipitous. Like it was just meant to be. All three of us got limits, and it was neat for me to when we ended up camping, because this wasn't the same spot or any of that. It was just we just picked a spot on the map to go set up camp, and you guys went to another BMA to go hunt, and I stayed back, and I'm like, y'all are asking, like, does this look like sage grouse to you? I'm like, yeah, that kind of over there does. And it's hard to tell when you're looking at a sea of sage, right?
Yeah.
And, but I'm like, over there, I'm like, y'all go do your thing. I got enough to do with the truck at the time. That was when the tire was what it was. I'm like, I'll try and do a quick walk and just walk around. And y'all went and did y'all's hunt and then came back. And I just had a sage grouse waiting on the table for y'all. And you're like, what the crap? And
Dude, I saw it from a mile.
I smelled it when I got out of the truck. Because I
Real
walked up to you, I was
pungent,
like, is that bird?
Yep. It's real pungent. Smells like sage. Imagine that. And then the next morning I stayed back at camp to actually take care of the tire and all that stuff. And y'all all just dispersed going into different ways. And then hearing the stories of y'all coming back. And unfortunately, Devin had shot one but didn't recover it. But you two both got yours, and it's just like I'm sitting here. It was neat for me to watch where a couple of years ago it took me and two buddies all week to figure it out, and then in this one it was just here they are.
I mean, what we ended up, and I'm not going to say where it was, but we moved 5 or 6 coveys of sage grouse, and
it was thick,
not a big area, right? I don't know, man. I think my favorite thing about this is, I got the trifecta with my dog, right? Like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come up here and get that knocked out and see what each bird experience was going to be like with my personal dog, right? The other great thing is just watching, the client dogs have learned, and sometimes we've struggled to get bird contacts, but just seeing them progress and open up and figuring out who they are again and what my steps going forward at home will be. But yeah, man, it was hard to beat that sage grouse experience. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty powerful upland moment, I think. Not to get, all dreamy about it or anything, but worst experience, dude, the snakes easily. Hands down. I thought I got bit, and that was hands down the worst experience.
Yeah.
And that's coming from, living in Georgia where there's a ton of snakes too. There's a ton of them, and that's not my first encounter with snakes, but whew, dude. Yeah, I changed my pants after that walk. It was bad.
Yeah.
But now, man, I've enjoyed I like the nomadic every night somewhere else, something different, see something else. Like we've talked about this before. Like the Army ruined me on that, like deploying so many times. I've got to constantly be going and seeing different things and exploring different areas. Like I can't just sit in one spot. So I've really enjoyed that part of it.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, again, a lot of good and bad this whole week. For me, it's like, I mean, it's push-pull all week. So, I could say my favorite would be Rachel with the sage grouse. That was a pretty cool little thing. But since you two picked the sage grouse, I'm going to diversify a little bit. I'll probably go to My least favorite and favorite moment was the same hunt yesterday.
Yeah.
I'll throw out some honorable mentions for the worst moments, and I'll let you guys pick on those. But in terms of dog work and what we come back up here for, it was the same walk with the same dog. It was Quinn, and I mentioned earlier, we're hunting and we had a situation that was I had to stop hunting and turn it into a training session. And what it was is she stuck this entire covey of sharp-tailed grouse, and it was a good one. It was, 15, 20 birds. It was a big one. I mean, I crest this hill and I see all these birds running, and the tracking collar went. At this time, it was working again. Binged. She's on point. And I'm looking over there and I see all these birds running around, but I don't see her. And the next thing you know, they all fly, and then she comes out of the brush. I'm like, oh, okay, so she was pointing them. Well, one kind of flies around, and it was a poke. It was, but it was doable. I've shot that distance before, so I do it, and it downs, and I can see it's crippled, but it's out there in the middle, and I'm just waiting on her to come back. And you know how hard it is to get a dog, especially when they're fired up in the field. They just pointed, and birds are flying everywhere. It's hard to get them to switch drives like that to go retrieve, right? But then this instance, this bird, I give her a moment to calm down, and then the bird starts walking towards the brush. And I'm like, all right, now I can't give her any more time. Like, I need to do it. And so call her in, give her a little bit of water, send her over there to it. And she went right over there. I'm like, this is going to be great. Awesome. And she grabs the bird, but the bird was like right on the edge of brush, and the bird just did a little flap thing and push forward, and Quinn just came up with a mouthful of feathers. and she looked at me like, this is good enough. And then she refused to go after the bird again after that. And so, I've force fetched her. We had training for this. This is what you train for. And so, you can't let that moment slide. We talk deep practice and whatever else. Like, it's let's have at it. And just drop the vest and everything. And it was not pretty. She did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy it. But we got through that experience. She moves on like nothing ever happened. Glad to see that rebound. And then she goes and just sticks a sharp-tailed grouse. Held it. I get there, shoot it, and man, that sharp-tailed grouse, I swear Quinn had. I think she caught it in air this time. She's like, I'm not going through that again. And so she caught it, brought it right back, and it was just like, it was really neat to see just the progression of don't want to do it. I kind of did it. Now I don't want to do it. Oh shit, I'm doing it on the next one, and just boom, boom, boom. So it was just really cool to see that level of dog work after just a moment of her thinking that, I don't have to do this. No, you have to do this. This is what we trained for. And it got me thinking, so many people that try something like force fetch or something like that, and then they'll come into that and put themselves in that scenario, and they just kind of let it go. A year later, they're like, I tried force fetch. It just didn't work. Like, my dog didn't take to it. It just made me wonder, like, how many people are actually stopping and taking the vest off, putting the shotgun down, and we're going to address this right here, right now, so we don't have to do this again later. That's what it took in that instance, and I think it paid off. I mean, pretty much right afterwards. But that's why it sticks out to me, to where it was like the best and worst moment, because I had to stop hunting to put my trainer cap on and go back to hunting.
I mean, I had to do that today on this walk. That one of the short hairs put up, he bombed a covey from like 100 yards off, too far. Like, it ended up being 3 coveys.
Yeah.
So no wonder he smelled them, right? But, I go out 50 yards, and I was like, surely they're not further than 50 yards in front of the dog. I couldn't find anything, so I released him, and he was a little high on his horse, so he ended up putting those coveys up, but I got a good stop to flush. Then we got another covey, and he did put that one up, but I got to stop to flush. And then we had some unintentional, because of like hillsides, like he was talking about birds seeing you and stuff, and me flushing the birds, not necessarily the dog, and getting some good stop to flushes at different distances and angles. And that was just like the theme of the beginning of the walk. And then I walked up a bird, and I was like, you know what, dude? you're crushing it. You're ranging out there. You're 150 yards from me. You're making progress. We're not perfect yet, but you're doing a good job. Like, I'm going to shoot this bird for you.
Mm-hmm.
And man, once I did that, like, it was good after that, man. We finished the walk with a really good point on some hot odor. Ran a little track sequence, locked up on another point, and stood steady. I mean, it just really capped off that walk. So I'm like you, where I'm like hunter having fun.
Yeah.
A dog trainer, like, I've had to play with some pressure levels today that I did not think I would be flirting in those levels, but that's where we were. So, but I'm like you, man. It's fun to do both at the same time, and it's like switch gears with the dog almost back and forth.
When you see it paying off, like, it, I don't know. A lot of people might be like, you're out there hunting. I get that. Each their own on their dogs. But, to me, I'm not training that in the off season to when it's game time, to when it's actually time to apply this skill, to just let it slide. Like, no, I did not train in 95-degree to Middle Tennessee weather for that garbage. No, not happening.
Well, he's doing the same thing as you, where like he just wrapped up force fetch, the formal portions of it, now generalizing it out here in the hunting field, and
it's different.
He's like, man, I'm having to like collar him sometimes. I'm having to make him do it. I'm like, yeah, but dude, like you had it happen too. Like, you got to generalize and proof it out here. So,
I mean, I even told you guys about today hunting. I could have shot multiple limits of birds, but he wasn't crashing them, but he was just sneaking in too close, and he's flushing all these birds. Sometimes I'm near close enough, but more often than not, I was 75, 100 yards away. I didn't even try to shoot any of those birds. It was just, well, okay, next thing. You're not going to get any reward here for not doing the right thing.
Well, that's a bird respect thing, which you and I talk about all the time.
All the time.
Like, yeah, in the training field, they crush it, but it's different species and different environments, and depending on how tall the grass is or whatever, like, sometimes they got to pay them a little more respect than.
If you don't ever let it slide in the training field and they come out here and they get away with it one time, guess what they're doing the rest of the trip? And that's what I tell everybody, like, sacrifice this one instance, this one rep, this one covey, this one shot, whatever, because all of the others that follow will get better. And again, circling all the way back to the start of this, some dogs it takes a hunt, some dogs it takes a week, but they're never going to get there if you just continuously reinforcing and rewarding that bad behavior. If I would have let Quinn just essentially flip me the middle finger and go off and hunt, which is what she was wanting to do, then the next bird, I can't guarantee, but more than likely, she would have done it again and probably been faster to flip me the bird and go do it again because she got away with it first time. She had to learn to do that. Before we wrap this up, Randall, you since I've known you, you've had a certain affinity for my little Munstie, my little crackhead Munstie, Lucy, a.k.a. Leroy Jenkins, which we're going to get to here in a second.
The goose.
I used to tell you that there's two sides to that dog. I tell everybody, and, a lot of people say this about their dogs, but like this one, it is true. I've been in the field with this dog, and she just cleans the field, and you're just like, all right, this is nice. This is a bird dog. Then the next day, you're like, you don't get to be called a bird dog.
Why do I feed you?
Yeah. And we can save the whole suspicions as to why or how we arrived at that. But bottom line is, we're here, we're there. This is what we're dealing with. You've never seen her in her Mr. Hyde stage, and so I want to get your interpretation, because I've been telling you for a while, and you're like, man, I don't think it's that big a deal. And we walked out yesterday, and Cory, I looked at him, and Randall was like, what's wrong with her? I was like, it's one of her days. And then the rest of the hunt, I'm going to let Randall tell the story, because I think it's no longer lost on him what I'm dealing with here.
Yeah. Man, I kept holding out hope, and I'm not gonna lie to you, like, there are dogs out there that that's just who they are, man. Like, whatever flavor they're doing for the owner or whatever, like, that's, some of this is just who they are. Like, you can't train everything out or into a dog.
Yeah,
they are who they are. They're sentient beings. But man, me and you take off, we take our two dogs who were like, yep, these will be fine.
Rachel and Creek.
He's a little gassed. He's got a little pad laceration, so he's being a little baby about it. But we're like, we'll take the two that we have a lot of faith in, and then bring the goose, because
why not?
The goose is awesome. Rachel sticks a point real nice. I get a solid backing opportunity. I'm like, this is that's what I'm after out here. Like, I want backs with him, the birds or whatever. Like, I'm after backs out here. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is going to be beautiful. He's got another dog backing him. He's backing a dog. Like, I need this. And, you pull out the camera and you're like, this is perfect. You go up and flush and shoot.
I'm enjoying this whole sequence.
Yep.
I'm going to watch and film Randall shoot a bird over my dogs.
Yep.
This is going great.
Everybody's getting what they want. Everybody's getting what they want. And then except Lucy.
She was the first one to stop at the top of the ridge. She
Yep.
backed of her own accord.
Yep. So I go in to start flushing, and, everyone's happy. Everyone's about to get what they want. And I hear feet coming behind me, man. I hear a horse coming. And I thought it was my dog. I was like, surely that is my dog. So I turn around and yell, whoa, and I see a little white fur missile go by me. And I'm like, that's not my dog. So I'm not going to keep screaming at not my dog. And, Lucy goes in there and busts a couple huns, and Rachel just looks at her like, I will drown you in that puddle. I will make enough water to drown you.
It was hilarious. Like, I mean, she literally...
Everybody was like, what the... like, everybody except Lucy.
In a million years, I never would have guessed in that instance that's what she would have done. But she went in there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to throw those birds into the air.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other possibility for that dog. She just rooted them up and just tossed them. And as soon as they got in the air, she just stopped and turned around and looked. And you're standing there. Creek still hadn't left. I'm
He's
standing
60
there.
yards back.
Rachel, all three of us, me, you, and Rachel, are looking at her, and I swear I just started saying, "What the F was that?"
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, I remember you said it.
Got Rachel on point. Randall getting situated. Whoa! Whoa! What the?
And I swear, like, I saw in Lucy's eyes, she's like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
I am just who I am. I'm sorry.
There's two people in here, dude.
It was funny.
And I'm just sitting there like, and what do you do? Because, I mean, it was just like the timing's done. You can't really correct anything, but it's just like, you know what? Just out of principle of the matter, I got to do something. So I just take her back 15, 20 yards, just long enough to get her to understand. Like, I'm not going all the way back up to the ridge, but I carry her back, woed her, and then I just made her stand there for a while. I doubt it connected anything whatsoever, but it's just like, no, there's got to be something here repercussion wise. and so I did that, and I'm just sitting there. It was the funniest thing. I swear Rachel was looking at her, because Rachel just kind of came off point and was just standing, I swear, just looking at her like, what is, everybody in that field was looking at her, including herself, saying, what is wrong with you?
Lucy just pulled out a mirror, was like, I hate the way I am. It was funny, man. But then, like, I saw it. You've been warning me, like, hey, man, if other dogs are on the ground, she's just going to hunt for her back. She's just going to, you'll see her follow all the other dogs. She's going to hunt close. She's going to look for her back. And I was like, no, this can't be true. And you're right. That's what she does. And then the porcupines. And
so let's tell that story. Let's go in this after she Leroy Jenkins, which if anybody doesn't know the Leroy Jenkins reference, it's like a decade ago. It's been a while, but yeah, there's this dude that just would do the online gaming thing and piss everybody off because they'd be coming up with a plan, and he would just yell Leroy Jenkins and just go and take somebody out.
He's a hero we needed. That's what he was.
Yeah, if you don't get the reference, Google it if you're inclined. But moving on from the Lucy Leroy Jenkins moment, we continue hunting, and she's just doing the same thing. And I'm not even upset.
Dogs.
Don't edit this part out, dude. It's bird dogs, man.
This is real life,
right?
This is what it's like having a chain gang of bird
As
dogs.
quiet as they've been since we've
Right.
been here.
Just out of nowhere, puppy being puppy. Yeah, we continue on the hunt, and Lucy's being Lucy. Frustrating. I think it opened your eyes up to exactly what I've been saying. It's frustrating because we know that she has better in her than that, but it is what it is. Out of nowhere, all of a sudden she kind of goes out of sight, and she's kind of behind me, which that's not common. Like, she's at least always in front. But at that moment, she's back behind me a little ways. It's like 40, 50 yards, not far. And I don't think anything of it. But Rachel goes on point in front of us across this little coulee. And Randall and I go, and we're going to go handle it. So he's going to get another backing opportunity on Rachel. At this time, I'm kind of looking at my watch. Like, all right, Lucy's still behind me. And I'm wanting to make sure that she doesn't root up another bird. Ultimately, is my only concern with it. And so, we go up, and by the time we get kind of even with Rachel, nothing's flown yet, but we look up, and here comes the goose, and she just comes and slams into a back, muzzle full of porcupine quills.
Yeah. Had her a little beard full of
Just-
porcupine quills.
Just a nice little goatee, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, that's you met a porcupine, but that doesn't count as a porcupine encounter. Like, it's cute, good, nice try, but let's finish this bird sequence and I'll get you cleaned up. Like,
Yeah.
you're fine. And we go in, and there's no birds there. Right? I mean, Rachel's staunch. I'm like, what is this? So we call Rachel and Creek back over there, and we sit down and we do the porcupine dance and just pulling the quills, and it doesn't take long. It's not that bad. There's a few decent ones, like one was through her lip and pulled that out, and there was one that broke off at the skin that I could not get out. That was the only one, so I'm keeping an eye on it. But the funny part was, not necessarily funny, as soon as we get done, we get our stuff back on, and we release them, Lucy just goes and dive bombs into the brush that Rachel was pointing before this whole sequence, and there's a porcupine in there.
Yep. And
Call
now
her-
we're like, no.
We recall them off that. Like, all right, nobody gets hurt on that. I'm like, oh, what are the odds of that? So there's 2 porcupines there, and in the morning, Randall came across a porcupine with one of his dogs, and then Quinn pointed a porcupine earlier. So there's 4 porcupines already at this point throughout the day. So this place is just loaded up. Well, we continue up this little gully, 200-300 yards. Rachel goes on point again, and I see the grove of trees. I'm like, this is gonna be another freaking porcupine. And she comes off of it and carries on, continues going hunting, and I just see Lucy just doing these laps inside the grove. I'm like, here we go. And I'm just this time I pull out the collar. Like, we're gonna get a training opportunity out of this. And sure enough, I finally see the big. I mean, it was a Volvo-sized porcupine. It was huge,
Big thing.
but it was up in the tree, and so Lucy treed the porcupine, and so I did a little deterrence training. She felt some of the juice on that one, and hopefully fixed that. But I'm like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Leroy Jenkins takes out the bird, and the next thing you know, 3 porcupine contacts in a matter of like 15, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I'm just sitting here like, this is one of those days to where, when I tell you, when I notice that in her, when she starts acting like that, I just go put her up. And I
Yep.
should have turned around and went and put her back in the box when we
Totally.
started the hunt.
Yeah.
Because there's other things throughout the rest of that just, neither great or bad, but it's just frustrating when just 2 nights ago she had one of her great hunts. Like, I mean, just ranging back and, pointing. I mean, just, she has it in her. It just,
What day is it?
what day is
Yeah.
it, man?
Mhm.
What side of the bed did she sleep on? I don't know.
Yep. Man, there's just that's just
Some
who
dogs
she
are that way,
is,
man.
That's just who she is. I mean, I don't know. I would like, after seeing it, it's been intriguing to me of like, what could we do? Like, maybe there's some other things that we could, like, ritual wise and some punishment stuff too. And I'm like, man, like that would be an interesting problem to dissect and just, have fun and experiment on it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how far it would go past that.
The thoughts cross my mind, but at the end of the day, it's also like she's a 6-7-year-old dog now.
Yeah.
And I wish that the knowledge that I have now, I had 5-6 years ago. This whole thing could have been prevented, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this isn't handler or owner caused or induced.
But I don't think all of it is.
Yeah.
Part of it's just who she is,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
But, it also, I didn't help things, I'm sure, but I would be curious if I had a time machine to kind of see what could have been done with her with the knowledge. And like you said, just experiment with things a little different, because it's funny. I get asked about her all the time because she's, like, people get around her. She's interesting. She's a good-looking dog, very energetic, very lively. People ask about her all the time, and
she's engaging. She engages you.
Yeah,
I think that's why people are drawn to her, because she's like, "Hey,
what up?
What are you doing here? Want to see what I can do?" And you're like, "Yeah, dude."
Yeah, what's up? I don't know. It is what it is. Is there anything we didn't touch on? We didn't talk about on this trip?
You and I have matching guns minus over under versus side by side.
I was about to say not matching much at all, but at least from the same place.
Well, stock wise, trigger wise.
I mean, they're more similar than my gun to y'all's. That's about it.
Yeah, he's shooting a pump gun. They're pretty similar. Yeah, I mean, that was I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty excited to get to use that thing. It's everything I thought it would be. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
So,
for those that are listening, Randall had his Upland Gun Company shotgun as well as mine, kind of their inaugural wild bird trips, and I tell you, man, I think I'm in love. I didn't realize a properly fitted shotgun, what difference that makes for just shouldering. Like I don't think I've ever shot with as much confidence as I have with this sucker. It just fits like a glove, and the first day, of the trip, I've already talked about it, but just taking one of each species with the 28 gauge barrel set on it is just like, didn't expect that.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool. Yeah.
That is an awesome experience.
I forgot you shot all 3 species in one day with a 28 gauge shooting 7.5 3/4 ounce loads. Like, I would have bet money against you on that one, but you did it, man. You did it. I'm like you. I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed with my order and what I got, and
was it worth the wait?
Yeah.
And was it worth the value?
Dude, I'll say this about them in value, right? Like, having coached a couple different sporting clays teams that my daughter shot on, she's been on a few of them, and seeing how much better kids shoot when they have a fitted gun. Even if we're just playing with like comb heights and stuff, but kids that truly get fitted guns, how much easier it is for them to understand and to work with them. I already knew the value of it, but I mean, most places to get into something like that, it's a chunk of change. I mean, it's expensive. So for the price of these guns to get a custom fitted stock, like that alone right there is worth the money that they're charging for these things. And then you get to pick your stock style and your gauge and your triggers and your engraving, like all the other add-on features. Totally worth it. 100% worth it. I'm not just trying to sell, the product, but like it's a very smart investment. I get it. People see the price tag and they're like, man, I added a couple things and I'm already at $4,000. And it's like, yeah, dude, but that's compared to like sporting guns, that's not bad at all. So
especially when you compare when you compare decent double guns just off the shelf, what the prices that those start at, what that looks like. I mean, to me, you can't talk about the value on this, but
hey. Dude, just puppies being puppies, man.
These dogs on the cable gangs. It's almost that time, guys. We're gonna go. But
all the adult dogs are tired, but the couple puppies out here are still very puppy.
All right, guys. We're gonna wrap this up real quick. Are y'all doing this type of trip again next year? Or y'all gonna change it up again? Y'all went from Michigan Northwoods out on the prairie early season. What are y'all thinking for next season for kicking it off?
Dude, so we've talked about this a good bit, because like I said, I like to adventure and see different things. So does he.
It's half
So
the fun.
You want to go
somewhere new.
somewhere different,
Oh yeah.
right? Where do you want to go?
I really want to see Idaho, but that's going to be a haul. I
Idaho.
don't know. That's what I want to do. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that didn't help that we met, Tyson and Lars.
Yeah, they
from
started talking it
Idaho.
up.
That
went,
didn't
"Ooh,
help.
I was
that's
I was
cool."
already kind of in y'all's ear about that,
Yeah.
and then they showed up and they were talking about that. That's yeah, you got to get the camper or something up there for the camping side of it, but you could just fly up there.
Yep. So I don't know. I will do this again more than likely next year. If someone's looking to have a dog trained and wants to do this, this has been popular. Since I've added this to my,
People have been questioning it.
services,
Asking about it.
Yeah, like, hey, you're going to train my dog and take him on wild bird trips to other states. Like, it's been a very popular thing. So I will more than likely do this again. I'm going to swap it. I will pick the dogs up and train for 3 weeks, so I don't have to figure out who they are while I'm here. And then we'll come up here towards the end of September, and to your point, it'll be cooler and things like that. So we'll still do it. We're just gonna swap it.
Yep.
But
Makes sense.
yeah, you guys aren't helping me with the Idaho. That's where that. Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh, that one's got to happen.
We're gonna
gotta
end
do
up-
it.
We'll see you in Idaho.
Yep. Well, guys, I enjoyed sharing camp, getting to know you a little bit, Cory.
It's been a pleasure.
Regaining some of the enjoyment of just camping and exploring a little bit. It's always worth it. Just go see what's over that next horizon and set up camp. And yeah, man, just get out there with your dogs and have fun and enjoy it.
Keep your expectations low and just come have fun and work on the things you've been working on.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the theme that we had. I think everyone did a good job at this trip of, like, we kept our expectations reasonable, and we've reinforced the things that we've been working on out here. And I think all three of us have done a good job at that. So
Come prepared for dumb stuff. Battery jumping off, inflating tires. That little Uncharted Zeus Air thing that I have is more than paid for itself
Oh yeah.
on this one trip.
Big value.
put that thing in the show notes.
Yeah, that sucker, that thing was freaking sweet. But yeah, I mean, what can go wrong will go wrong, and have a bunch of different options because, I mean, even just my tire, I mean, it's like I have all the crap in my truck to change the tire, but where it was parked, it was not conducive, and it took my stuff mixed with your stuff with four guys. Like, it's we made it work. But yeah, that's to say that, like, just because you think that you have that, little bottle jack and spare tire that comes stock with the truck.
You don't want to hear this either, but I had one more piece of equipment that I forgot that I had that would have made that
A little easier.
way easier. And I completely forgot I had it.
Oh,
So
well, hopefully there's not a next time. But yeah. Just a reminder, throw in some safety or redundancy in your truck, and you'll be better off for it. But yeah, we're gonna go and get these puppies. They're riled up. We're gonna get some dogs dressed up, and we're gonna go shoot some birds. Hopefully.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Sounds good.